Now, joining me in studio, Iran expert Meir Javendanfar, and also joining us from Washington, D.C., Senior Fellow at the Security Studies Group and Middle East and Geopolitical Analyst Matthew Brodsky. Gentlemen, a pleasure to have you both with us. Meir, we'll start with you. Trump saying no preconditions, although it's obvious, and we've heard just some of those from Pompeo, that those conditions are, I suppose, inherent. And Iran, for its part, saying Trump needs to return to the deal first. Who's going to blink first?
I think there's a problem. It's the war of the incoherent policies. On the one hand, Trump says I'm willing to meet without preconditions. On the other hand, Pompeo comes and lays out preconditions. On the one hand, the commander of the IRGC said today that there's no way we're going to meet with America again. And then earlier this morning, they laid out preconditions that. First of all, we have to work out what is going on. Second of all, I think it's a welcome initiative if it really is without preconditions. I think the Iranians, as bad as and as a mistake it was to walk away from the Iran deal, I think the Iranians, the way the Iranian currency is tanking, basically, it's like a rock falling against the dollar. The Iranian regime has no other choice but sooner or later to come to the table.
All right, Matthew, let's get your take on this. Is this some kind of game of chicken?
Well, I think that the Trump administration basically knows that with the first set of big sanctions that are coming on in the next few days, and then, of course, in a few more months in November, the big set against everything related to its energy sector, that it's providing for Iran a way out, that it can, in fact, engage in making a better deal. But I think he also knows that there's no way that the Iranian regime can actually accept the deal, because what President Trump is looking for, quite rightfully, is something that not only would address its nuclear program in a real way to ensure it never gets nuclear weapons, but also it would have to deal with its behavior and its ruinous activities throughout the region, which would basically mean that the entire regime would have to change its entire reason for being itself. So it provides basically the regime an out if it would like to, in fact, change itself. I don't think it's going to happen, and that's why I think Trump knew that it was safe to, in fact, make such an offer.
All right, now this all happens days before the US imposes sanctions on Iran, which includes limiting its oil exports. Here's what Rouhani said on that.
The Islamic Republic has never sought tension in the region and does not want any trouble in global waterways, but it will not easily give up on its rights to export oil.
Meir, how much are these sanctions going to hurt Iran?
I think they're going to push the Iranian economy to the edge of the cliff. I really think that millions of Iranians are going to be pushed into poverty. I think it's not beyond imagination that within the next 6 months we're going to see, perhaps much sooner, a shortage of medicine. The Iranian regime is, of course, going to try to use PR. They try to basically score PR points from that because the sanctions are not against medicine. You know, I just wrote a tweet after the commander of the IRGC said that Iranian people will not allow meeting with America. And I wrote in Farsi, actually. I said, whoever says that Iran should not meet with America to negotiate should provide an economic blueprint of how to get the Iranian economy on the right path. Because the way it's going, the Iranian economy is entering a danger zone that it has never faced before.
Right. Matthew, how does Trump get Iran to talk without coming back to the deal, which are the conditions, at least we're hearing at this stage from Iran? Will these sanctions do the trick?
Well, maybe the sanctions will do more than the trick and deal a decisive blow against the regime. Time will only tell. But the fact is, the people who are protesting in the streets repeatedly for over 6 months now, and especially even today, who are demanding that Iran stop spending its $16 billion per year on its war in Syria. And that's you know, that's aside from all the rest of the money it's spending just with the Revolutionary Guards, with to Hamas to fund its war in Yemen. The people of Iran actually can tell that the regime is wasting the money that could be going for any other purpose, and instead they're spending it on foreign adventures and on nuclear weapons programs, which is the problem. That's what the sanctions are designed to do, to create a change in the regime's behavior. It will remains to be seen if that's going to happen. If not, I'm sure the president seems, along with the Secretary of State Pompeo, they really seem to be in the corner of the people, which is a refreshing change from the Obama years.
Now, Meir, the Deputy Speaker of the Iranian Parliament has said it's not a good time for US-Iran negotiations or talks because it would be embarrassing for Tehran. But can Iran, looking at what you just said before about how crippling these sanctions could be, can it afford to drag its heels?
We have to understand there's a couple of factors to take into consideration, and they contradict each other. The Iranian regime is a terrible regime, but the Iranian regime was living up to its side of the deal. It's the Americans who walked away from the deal. So for the Iranian regime to come to the table, it could say that we are being bullied. We lived up to our part of the deal, and now we're being bullied. But on the other side, and this is the contradictory part, as with everything with Iran, lots of contradictions, people of Iran don't believe the regime rhetoric anymore, even if the regime may have some valid points, because of massive incompetence, huge corruption.
So then why not do what's in the interest of its people?
That's the thing. The Iranian regime is going to have to swallow its pride and come to the table, and that has always been a struggle. But again, we may be surprised, because, as I said, I'm sure they understand it much better than me or any other Iran specialist of what a grave danger the Iranian economy is facing. And people, this is not the beginning of the revolution where people were willing to sacrifice 8 years for the war. People don't believe the regime anymore, and they just want open heart surgery for Iran's foreign policy.
Well, time will tell if this will be a hat trick for Trump. Meir Javendanfar, Matthew Brodsky, appreciate your perspectives there.